Does it have a timer on it?
It says 54 seconds.
I knew it.
Damn it.
I called it.
All right. Okay. Health and happiness, everyone. Welcome to the Strength and Motion Show, an online experience curated specifically for the members and fans of Strength and Motion Academy. If you haven't heard of our space before, we are a 24/7 gym in Midvale, Western Australia, and our goal is to provide a space where people can build a strong and mobile body using a functional and holistic health approach to training and life. Woohoo! All right. It's 20 seconds. It's 20 seconds before the sound thing turns off. If this is your first time listening to the show, then thank you for tuning in, and I strongly encourage you to get stuck into our first 5 episodes. These first 5 are a complete deep dive into the holistic way, hashtag the holistic way, which is our 4-pillar approach to achieving health and fitness mastery. As experienced health and fitness coaches, we have identified movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress as the 4 key areas to always prioritize in order to live healthy and happy. You can do so simply by scrolling to the bottom of this episode list or search the Strength and Motion Show on YouTube and Facebook. Today we're talking the SMA Nutrition System. This is the specific series of steps that we encourage people to follow if they wish to learn a holistic, achievable, and effective and sustainable way to living fit and healthy. The nutrition system applies to people from all walks of life who don't want to sit on the extreme ends of dieting, especially for goals like weight loss and muscle gain. This system is optimized for people who wish to develop a healthy relationship with food and a healthy understanding of food for both performance and well-being. So, welcome to the show, Nav. The sound's off now, so I can...
Actually, I didn't mind it. It was quite nice in the background.
I'm glad we've got the volume control. So, for those who are watching on YouTube and can see the show visually, we're in a new studio. We're in the same studio. We're just in the room next door, and it's set up differently. But if you haven't listened to another episode, every time we go into the studio that we hire, whoever's been in the studio previously, they upload their sounds onto the dashboard and onto the deck, and we just go press buttons and see what sounds we've got. So that was today's mystery sound. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 more buttons that are illuminated, which we'll get to discover what they sound like later on.
Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo was a really the kangaroo.
Is it kangaroo?
Yeah, no, there was a didgeridoo one there as well.
Yeah,
that was and then there was the
kangaroo.
Yeah. You'll have to listen to the previous episodes to get that joke, listeners. So, Nav, welcome to the show. Let's get back on track. Can you please start us off with sharing some of your experience working with clients who have struggled with their food, also their weight management and lifestyle changes?
Cool, beautiful. So let's start off with some common stories. So the things that we experience with most people are rapid weight loss, but then they stack it back on again.
Yeah.
An extreme case of that is something like The Biggest Loser, which isn't communicated about enough. I don't think people truly know that. I think it was like 85 to 90% of contestants ended up gaining more weight post-show than they did going into the show. And they actually created a whole entire website talking about the negatives of extreme dieting, extreme training on the body and the bounce back effect. So we experience that a lot as well. We'll have people coming through that have gone to extremes of training, maybe even extreme diets, and they create this yo-yo effect. It's unstable, inconsistent, and in the long run doesn't get them the results or make bad results. It impacts people in a negative way, negative consequences.
I agree. Sustainability is really the issue that seems to come up, is people can get short and fast results, but then they don't tend to stick. And that's a big issue. And we'll share some examples of anonymously with clients that we've had come through the gym, where people who have had previous results with extreme diets, and they're the ones that are the hardest to work with because they've already been successful with a particular strategy, and then you have to unteach it to them. And it's mentally challenging for them because they're like, why would I want to do something that didn't work for me last time? But when they go down the extreme methods to actually achieve those results, then it doesn't work the second time round. That's the problem. And so there's a lot of education. And again, this system is based on education as well, and really teaching you and the listeners to really understand what's actually going on fundamentally within the body. Once you understand a handful of principles, it actually gets a lot more easier. It gets a lot more simpler to work with. And then you don't have to fall into those traps of the marketing ploys and like, if you do this and apple cider vinegar this, and if you starve yourself, whatever. And Yeah, and if you cut this food diet or this food group out, then you'll be fine. Like the food group's not actually the problem. It's actually the consistency, and it's the person's relationship with food and their ability to eat for nourishment rather than other things. But we'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can share from your experience working in the bodybuilding scene and working with bodybuilders? I definitely have noticed seeing the long-term effects of people that are not reverse dieting. And for those of you who might not know what reverse dieting is, effectively when someone is going into a competition, they are slowly reducing the amount of calories each week. They're eating less and less and less food as they get closer to that date, so that their body becomes thinner and thinner and thinner, which helps the aesthetic, the goal of looking really, really lean. But then the same speed at which you roll into a really low calorie diet is kind of the same speed that you should roll out post competition. And what we're noticing is, what we've seen is a lot of people will come in and they will just scoff. They'll scoff and they'll indulge in food, and then they blow out. And after a series of competitions, their bodies just are holding a bit of damage and baggage, and their results don't come as smoothly.
Yeah. Basically, we want to be as consistent and as meticulous with our movement within our body, right? We don't want to create too much chaos. And the same thing goes with training. If we want to get into an ultra marathon and running for 24 hours straight, we don't want to go from
18 hours.
18 hours, right?
24 is the goal. 24 is the goal.
We're going to want to slowly build our way up to achieving that. And I think it's the same occurs when with nutrition and biology and physiology is if we're going to diet and we want to get down to being on stage for a bodybuilder, we need to be slow and allow the body to adapt. Otherwise, if you create too much of a shift too quickly, that's going to negatively impact bloating, water weight, stress on the body as well. And same thing as you mentioned, reversing out of that. We don't want to just shock the body straight away into a positive surplus of calories when we've been on a deficit for so long, because that could do the same. The body might not know how to react to that surplus of calories. So, and that's the extreme of bodybuilding, but that also applies to everyday life, where people will go on an extreme 1,200 calories, if not lower, diet, and then they try and bounce back into eating the standard weekend where they're having Hungry Jacks 3 times and then Krispy Kremes or ice cream, whatever it is.
And that's the problem, is we're not fully, we haven't been fully addressing the person's relationship with food or their lifestyle changes or their lifestyle habits. And that's, again, what a big part of the nutrition system is facilitating lifestyle change. Because otherwise people can, sure as hell, they can stick to this really crazy diet and stick to it for a period of weeks, even months. But then when they resume back to their old life, it's like they're back off the holiday and they're like, okay, we can do whatever we want when we go back to their old habits. And then they're the same habits that got them into the unhealthy physique in the first place. And so that's what we want to eliminate. We want to eliminate falling back into old patterns and pathways. So is there anything that you wanted to add on to that, Nav, before we go into like breaking down what the system is?
I think that pretty much covers that.
Cool.
Really well, yeah.
Let's do it.
Good intro.
Thank you. Let's go. SMA Nutrition System. Let's do it. So let's break down the system, and then I'd also like to spend a bit of time on each section. So listen up. If you're listening on in front of a computer or laptop, this is a good time to take some notes. If you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel. But this whole entire podcast is designed to just be listened to. You can actually absorb all of this information via your ears. So before I do start this explanation, I want to give the advice to all the listeners that there is an accompanying document to this episode. So if you are listening, you can just access it on the in the bio link or the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening to it on. You can download it through there. And if you are an SMA member or you're a personal training client of ours and you have access to our exclusive training app, then you can also access it via the homepage. It's in the dashboard. It's linked within the dashboard. And so it's very important that you actually utilize this document, because the document has all the extra information and all of the extra resources that we are quoting in this podcast. So you can also access it on our website, which is www.smacademy.com.au. And I should actually say that by the time this episode is launched, so if you're listening to it, the episode's been launched and it's on the website. Right.
Who would have known?
Who would have known? But it's currently not on the website at the moment.
It's been leaked.
It's been leaked.
Maybe it's been leaked.
Yeah. Gretch, Gretch is our awesome social media manager. And if Gretch, you've leaked it, screw you, Gretch. You're in trouble. You're not getting paid this week. So this system starts from the very beginning. And it caters for complete beginners who have no idea, and it slowly evolves into catering for people that have more than less of no idea. And as you get more and more familiar with this concept, you can start to learn the points of which, even as a personal training coach, a personal trainer or a coach, you can start to use this system, which is what we use. We use this for ourselves, with our clients, and with our coaches as well. So there's a full progression for you to go through, but we always recommend that even if you have existing knowledge, start from the very beginning with us and then work your way through, because there's probably something that you still will be able to learn or at least fine tune in your current practice. So phase 1, the first phase is the baseline knowledge phase. Like everything, it starts with an instruction manual. Consider that you need to know the lingo. So we even mentioned in the introduction, we were using words like calories and macronutrients and metabolism.
What are those?
Yeah, and if people don't know what those are, then it gets very confusing very, very quickly. So I like to say the story of like when you learn to drive a car, you need to learn certain names and functions like the handbrake, the accelerator, the steering wheel, indicator. You need to know what certain buttons do, and this is before you even start driving the car. And that way, when you're in the car and driving and moving, then you're more comfortable to navigate the situation. So that's the same thing with this. You need to learn a bit of the baseline lingo. So we want you to be understanding things like macronutrients, calories, energy balance. These are what influences our weight, our recovery, and our energy levels. We will actually break down these further in. So if you don't know what they are, you shouldn't be listening to this episode. No, I'm kidding. But there is actually, inside the book, there is further breakdown of this. We will touch base on it as well to get you up to scratch. But Nav, can you please walk me through phase 2?
Beautiful. So you should have gone through phase 1. You now have all this information.
Yes.
Quality information. Knowledge is power.
Nerds.
The second phase is known for where we do our 30-day challenge members kick off from. So I just read that wrong, but
yeah, it was enough. It was enough to get the message across. I did listen to it. And I'm like, no, that works.
Okay, second phase is what we use most with our 30-day challenge members.
Yes.
It's quick action. It's like specific habits that revolve around protein, staying hydrated, that they just follow every single day, and that will get them results. So phase 2 is actually starting to act upon certain habits like hydration, protein, and calories even.
It's the doing right now. It's what we do right now. And we find that is that obviously people are listening to this podcast and wanting to put effort into their nutrition because they want results. And so when people are excited and people have a lot of energy and focus, it's good to give things that they can take action on quickly as well. And I wanted to touch base on one of those is keeping a log of their food. Nav, can you hit me with your favorite quote here?
You can't manage what you don't measure, of course.
There we go. We've quoted this in many podcast episodes before. And that's exactly what it is. We need to bring awareness around, you need to measure it, same as your finances. If people's like, I got no money, and be like, well, where's it gone? And if they don't even monitor it, then you're like, well, there's your problem. You're not monitoring where it's going. So same as your food, monitor your energy intake going in and out, and then that gives you the basis of which to manage from. Should we, I actually wanted just to drop a note in here because we actually have just finished one of our 30-day challenges, and even just quickly, like we've had Kim, we'll call it Kim T. Kim T. She staunched it. She was on Light and Easy, right? And Light and Easy is like a meal service where they just give you, I think it's 1,200 calories or 1,500 calories.
I think you had the option of either or, but she was on 1,200, right? Yeah, something like that.
She was on 12 or 15. Anyway, she was on too little, but she was on a meal plan. They were just sending her the food. She was eating it, and then we sat down with her and I said, look, just to get started, just take 2 protein shakes a day, because she was kind of getting enough calories in, but we did need her to increase her protein intake, as for one of these habits is to prioritize protein. And she just had 2 protein shakes a day, and she came in a week later and she was just like, my muscles are so sore because I've got so much more energy, that she just did like a 2-day bender of gardening. Kim's retired, and she was like had the pressure cleaner out, and she was raving on about it. But I like to share this story because A, it's really recent at the time of filming this episode, this podcast, but 2, it goes to show that A, at any age you can get good results, but people need to start relaxing their mind about eating less. The real moral of the story was eating more, and that's going to be a theme of what we're talking about. A lot of the better results come from eating more because of where society is currently sitting. Most people tend to undereat, and that tends to be a big problem. So I just wanted to drop that note there as well. Phase 3. this is where people get to focus on their relationship with food now. So you've got a bit of knowledge, you know what you're doing, you're starting to get momentum, you're implementing a few little things and habits and actions in your life that are now getting you more aware of your food, and you should start to feel more energized like Kim did, and maybe you're building muscle, maybe you're losing a bit of weight as well, hopefully. Then you start to work on your relationship with food. And really, like, the 30-day challenge is in a way a little bit similar to some of the concept of the Biggest Loser. It's like you go into this thing and then you do the things and you get some quick results, and that's where the film is on and everyone's like, whoa, like TV and photos and all this kind of stuff. But that's a short period of time. And when that time's over, if people haven't changed their ways, then they go back to their old lifestyle. So phase 3, once you start getting momentum, is to start continually adapting and evolving your relationship with food. And the only way to really evolve someone's dieting is to eventually make it not dieting. Dieting needs to become existence. And so it needs to be from like, hey, I'm doing this diet, or I'm on a diet, to no, I don't eat that. I just don't eat that food. That's not my food, or this is how much food I'm going to eat. Once it just becomes a way of life, that's when it becomes sustainable, and that's where evolving your relationship with food comes into play. So we're introducing habits that are conducive to living healthy, which simply put are healthy habits. So these are things like reducing inflammatory food, eating for nourishment over punishment or distraction, having awareness around food again, and basically cutting all the nasty shit out of our diet that really doesn't make us feel that good. Might make us feel good in the short term, like Coke with the caffeine and sugar, but long term it doesn't make us feel good. And so when you just eliminate those things, then you start to feel healthier and better, and then again sustainable results start to come into play. I did want to mention, you don't know about this, but I just chatted with Warren from the gym. This was yesterday whilst I was training, and he's just cut out wheat, bread, and gluten-based carbs. And he comes up to me, he's like, do you reckon I've lost weight? And I'm like, fucking oath, you've definitely lost some weight. Like, what have you been up to? And I just thought he'd just been sleeping more, because he just doesn't sleep all the time. And he's like, no, he's like, I've like cut all these like gluten and wheat-based products. And he goes, then I went out and then ate a bunch of bread, and he was like, he felt so thick and sick and thick, and he felt really bloated and really lethargic. And he was like, man, I couldn't believe it. But it's because he hadn't committed to just like removing them for a period of time, and then when he reintroduced them, he got that contrast as well. So we're going to be sharing stories about that from examples of people eliminating things in their diet that's actually not supporting them and supporting their health, but not realizing that they weren't supporting them. They were eating these things and thinking they were fine, but then when they eliminated them and reintroduced them, they had that experience when they're like, oh my God, like this is actually like, I don't feel good at all. I just didn't really know what good felt like back then. So that's really what phase 3 is, really improving your relationship with food. And that's where we're going to spend a lot of the podcast today on, is really breaking those down. I think we've got 15 points, 15 like tasks or habits or actions to implement into one's life to restore a really strong relationship with food. Another one actually I've got written down here just on that note is Gretch's mum. She lost a bit of weight as well. So nice. Gretch is one of the team members here, and she actually works on editing and going through the podcast and taking through the social media snippets. And just from listening to our previous nutrition episode, she brought those into her household, and her mum was under eating, and she got her mum to eat more food, and her mum lost some weight as well, which is really cool. So Nav, can you talk to me about phase 4?
Yeah, beautiful. So phase 2 and 3 mainly will get people lots of results.
Yes.
But when they want to start to take it the next step,
yes,
like if they want to focus on a specific body composition or performance, to feel a certain way within their life, that's when they might need to start measuring, so they can manage the amount of food that they're eating.
Yeah. This is time to get dialed. You know, this is when you're getting real dialed in.
Yeah. So now you built the habits. You've worked on your relationship with food. You figured out what it is currently and what works for you and your everyday life.
Yep.
Then we'll start using the PALM method.
Yes.
So we've kind of utilized, I think Precision Nutrition really made this popular.
They did, yeah. Dr. John Barati, shout out.
Yeah. I did his certification quite a while ago.
You did, yeah.
But now we utilize it, a lot of people utilize it, where we use our hands as measurements for food. And so about a palm of meat for most of us, most size hands, is about 100 grams of raw meat, which is normally about 25 grams of protein. And so we'll use that for protein. If we're using a cupped hand, it's about the equivalent in carbs. So a cupped hand of carbs, so rice, potato, what have you, pasta, fruit, berries, would be about 25 grams of carbs as well. And then normally about a thumb of fat will be about 5-7 grams of fat, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's then moving into phase 4 is gaining awareness around portion control, how many calories, how many macronutrients are in the food that we're eating.
Yeah.
And then starting to manipulate that to allow us to perform better, change our body composition in the way that we want it, etc.
Yeah, perfect. And again, if some of those words that Nav mentioned, if you didn't understand them, we will touch base on those as well. And again, the supporting information is in the document as well. So if you are not understanding of some of those things that we mentioned, just hang in there and it will all come together towards the end of the episode and it will start to make sense. So nice work on phase 4. Now, your first 4 phases should actually be enough to get you really outstanding results. As we've mentioned that we've already mentioned like 1 or 2 pieces of results from our clients. We've actually got another list of results that we will share throughout the podcast. So just from each phase, what people have managed to do. And I just wanted to share the results we've had to illustrate that you can actually get good results from just taking simple and very short action. But it's the point of like being patient with yourself and stacking on over time more and more and more action. So the first 4 phases, it should be more enough to get you results. We've had plenty of results as we've told you that we're going to share about that. And also even with our PT clients and our personal journeys, it is enough. And I'm just constantly reaffirming that you can get results from even half the things we're about to share with you in this episode, because again, there is a lot of knowledge that we're really excited to share with you, and at some point you can feel overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. And so everything that we're talking about, these first 4 phases, you can spend up to 6 to 12 months learning these phases, and that's okay. That's probably more ideal because it's the long and slow process where you really learn and really sink into understanding these. That's where the best long-term results come from, and change takes time. So that's enough for you to get started. Once you have surpassed phase 4, where you're like really good at like dialing in your nutrition, you know your portion control, you know exactly your macronutrients, your fats, your carbs, and your protein, exactly what working for you. Phase 5 is taking things into the kitchen and beyond. So this is more where the system becomes more of like a tool for the enthusiast to really have fun inside the kitchen, start playing around with new styles of meal prep, building your own meals, getting the habits of prepping food on a Sunday or for the week ahead, which are really good habits to do, and then playing around, like actually getting creative in the kitchen as well. And so phase 5, we're not really going to touch too much on in this podcast because it's further down the line, and what you guys need is actually that fast, really quick action and the good habits that you need to install straight away so that you start getting results. But if you spend some time looking through the book, again, that's accompanied with this, there is recipes in there, there's strategies on how to work with food, there's examples of good foods to have at different times of the day, like this is good examples of breakfasts and lunches and dinners, and that probably even by the time you are listening to this episode, if it's like a month or so after releasing it, there's probably going to be another update or 2 because we're constantly working with our clients and with our coaches and with our members to evolve this document. And so every time it's going to keep getting updated. There's going to be more and more recipes and more things as well. So I'm really excited about this episode because this is the birth of something really great that we've created. So that's all I wanted to touch base on phase 5. It's more about breaking down, building a meal plan. There's a thing in the book that says how to build a meal plan in 9 simple steps. It takes you through a bit of mathematics as well. Again, it's more down the intermediate to advanced steps, but it is very achievable. So I think we did really great for time there. I think we're about 22 minutes of filming. So if you haven't heard, we reset our cameras every 25 or so minutes, just because that's the way our technology rolls at the moment. So we're going to roll into a tech pause, and then our editing team is going to delete the pause, so there's never going to be a pause to exist. Let's go with mystery sound number 2.
Oh, the volume's down.
Oh, what's that? Whoops. All right, that was only a 6-second clip, so let's go up to about here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
What a way to start the camera change.
Ba-bam. Okay, see you soon, team. Mystery sound number 3 coming right up.
Dropping knowledge bombs on the people.
Dropping knowledge bombs.
Who was it that does that as well? The other big podcaster. Big dude. He's one of the big... I can't remember his name, but he does that. He calls them knowledge bombs, I think, or something.
Is he a big dude? Is he's got a large podcast, or he's physically
physically large?
Like sits in a large chair.
Like he's interviewed like Watson.
Where's Watson? Watson, like
Wes and like Jocko Willink. He's like in that sort of space. The disciplinary, take responsibility,
and he's a big dude.
Yeah. You've surely seen him around.
Yeah, well, I spend a lot of time scrolling internet things, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is, but I'm trying to figure it out, but I can't think of it. Maybe
I'll show you later.
Show me later.
I could picture it, but I just can't get his name out of my head.
Yeah, I'm having a mental blank. But anyway, the audience are like, what are these guys on about? So that's okay. We'll remember it. We'll upload a screenshot of the guy that we're thinking of. This is the guy that we're thinking of. So welcome back to the pause that you didn't really need to know that existed. But Nav, I want to skim through phase 1 just a little bit so that we can just kind of refresh all of the listeners' minds on this like baseline knowledge and skim them through. Again, here's your extra reminder that this information is in the accompanying document and it's broken down a little bit more easier so that you can really understand it. But Nav, take me through phase 1 and talking about the baseline knowledge. What did I write here? So we know where to start. All right, let's just skip that. Ignore what I just said. Kick us off, Nav.
Kick us off? Okay, awesome.
At
least we got the volume up as well.
Sorry,
Nice.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, phase 1 is the baseline knowledge.
Yep.
You use the analogy of a car. Before you get into a car, you need to know, firstly, the car needs to have 4 tires. If one of them's popped, probably don't drive it.
Yes.
Simple, basic knowledge that needs to be known for you to succeed in that area. Yeah. And that is what our podcast number 3 is for. It's to give you that baseline knowledge. Yeah. So phase number 4 is gain that knowledge by listening to that podcast. It outlines the holistic approach to food and discusses the beginner strategies to take to get you started. Accompanying this knowledge are a few simple pages in the beginning of the nutrition system.
Yes, yeah.
So that's what you mentioned. That's in the actual description.
It's in the document. Yeah. So if you were to download this document, guys, what you would actually see is that we break down each phase, and one of the tasks that you have to do in the first phase is to listen to episode 3 in the nutrition system, which is Nav and I. We're pressing buttons in the studio next door and listening to things, but we actually really break down nutrition for the audience, and that's your that with the other accompanying episodes, just for that matter, that cover movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress in the holistic way. They are the foundational knowledge that we want everyone to know. And I say this to people that sign up. I say, if you're completely new, and you were to work one-on-one with a coach and had that time where you could just sit down and be taught the actual knowledge that you need to know, that's what those first 5 episodes are. Those are the episodes that really get you really familiar with. They put you in the right mindset with the baseline knowledge. So yes, it's in the book, and the book actually says, listen to this episode. And then again, it reaffirms some of that information as well. Yeah. So what about some of the actual technical terms? Can you just drop that on us, please, Nav?
Yeah, beautifully. So what's within that podcast, the document signed off in phase 1 is calories and the measurement of food. It's the energy of the food itself, and the amount of energy we put into our body is going to impact the result that we want. So that's important to understand when we talk about calories. It's simply the energy of the food. Mm-hmm. Then we're looking at macronutrients, which are the 3 large macronutrients of food, covering your protein, carbs, and fat.
Yep.
Each macronutrient also has its own energy value.
Yes.
So protein and carbs both have an energy. So 1 singular gram of protein and 1 singular gram of carbs is 4 calories. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about and fat is 9 calories.
Yep.
So when we talk about the macronutrient protein, we talk about you need to eat 150 grams of protein. We're talking about the macronutrient protein itself.
Yes.
Which has its own caloric value.
Yes.
So that's important to understand. And then simply we have a basal metabolic rate. So the simple act of living is going to take energy.
Yes.
Then depending on our own basal metabolic rate, which dependent on the amount of chemical reactions within our body, our metabolism, our thyroid, all of our hormones, the energy that we just have running through our body is going to shift. Then the amount of exercise that we have, all these things, even the amount of food we eat is going to impact our metabolic rate and our energy expenditure.
Yes.
And so what we're trying to do is identify how much energy expenditure someone has, and then how much energy is meant to go in for the desired result.
Yes.
That's the basic baseline.
Yeah, basic baseline. In summary, it's just like we exert energy as humans throughout a day, and then we also eat food. And so we are looking to balance the amount of energy or / food going into the body with the amount of energy that's being burnt, I guess, for the person to do whatever they want to do. And so I tend to say I use the car analogy because I'm a mechanic, and tease what mechanic I am. But I tell my clients, I'm like, if you were to run your car, if you turn your car on during the day and just leave it and it did nothing, it'd still burn a little bit of fuel and a little bit of oil. And so that's what your BMR is like. Fuel is just going to be burned just to exist. Then some people, they're going to tow trailers, they're going to drive on long drives, they're going to drive fast, up and down hills. Depending on how and where you drive your car, you're going to burn more or less fuel. And so you need to figure out what's the total amount of fuel that car is going to burn on the day, and that's similar to your body. Your body's going to burn a certain amount of fuel throughout the day, and so understanding that is your baseline knowledge. So the other thing I wanted to add into the phase 1 that is really important to constantly drive home. If you can hear me, that's me slapping my hand on my hand. This is me slapping Nav. Constantly is the golden rule, and this has got its own page in the document, in the book, and it's being proactive. Being proactive is a make or break with nutrition, especially for beginners. All the beginners out there that
they're my favorite, the beginners.
The beginners. I just couldn't know with it. The beginners out there, if you are not being proactive with your food, and being proactive is to be prepared, to anticipate when you're going to need food, to anticipate when you're going to be hungry. And if you don't put that as a priority in your life, you're going to get to the point where you need to eat food and you don't have the right options available, or you're hungry and you don't have the patience to choose the right options, or you don't have the energy to choose the right options. And so what happens when you're in those situations is the time of which you eat starts to fluctuate, because you eat sooner or earlier or later, depending of where you go get food. You end up getting fast food options, or food options that are more processed and off the shelf, or foods that are also just generally like more expensive in a way as well. And so a lot of people spend more time eating out and they bomb money on Uber Eats, etc. And the food that is sold to us that's ready-made is usually made to sell more food, and it's also usually produced to maximize profit for that company. And so it's not always the most quality ingredients, and it's not always the most healthiest, and the nutrient profiles aren't the greatest, because there's often fillers and just extra oil and just cheap oil and shit that's in them. So being proactive is a crucial thing that I constantly drive home. Be proactive. If people are not proactive, they are really set up to fail with their nutrition. So, anything to add before we roll on to phase 2, Nav?
Let's do it.
Oh, I didn't start my stopwatch. Anyway, let's pretend. That was approximately. Oh no, that was 9 minutes on that camera. So there we go. So phase 2. So as we mentioned, phase 2 is where we kick off our 30-day challenge members. So this is where we're in a phase of like, okay, we've got to head around the concept. We need to pull the trigger, start taking fast action, and get the ball rolling. So we also mentioned as well, we find that because motivation wavers a lot within people, it's very important to get some wheezy ins,
for them beginners,
yeah. Some easy wins. I'm trying to. What's the runs on the board? Scores on the board. Just trying to get some scores on the board, runs on the board. To get like nice and early, it gives you the momentum, and it's also good to get feedback. Feedback's really important when you're trying to pick up a new habit, because you want to know that you're doing the right thing and doing the right thing consistently. So the good thing about phase 1 and phase 2 is that they work together. As you learn about nutrition, you're also taking action at the same time. So phase 1, you're learning. Phase 2, you're pulling the trigger, but they feed into each other. The more action you take, the easier it is to learn and understand what's happening. And it also buys you more time, because you're getting results, and then you can learn at a less aggressive pace. Like if you try and cram information like we used to do before school studies and school tests and uni exams, that information doesn't retain as much. But when you have more of a patient approach, it's a lot more easier to remember things as well, and that's what's really important. So as you're going through phase 2, you can keep spending time reading the book, listening to our podcasts, or even engaging in other learning, listening to other podcasts and reading other books from other nutritionists and coaches, and that's a really helpful thing to do. So Nav, can you please tell me what the first 3 things we get people to focus on is it actually 4 things? No. All right, I might have made a mistake there. The first main 3, potentially 4 things we get people to focus on to get easy results and quick action.
Okay, beautiful. So the first one is hydration.
Yes.
Real simple. It's just like breath, funny enough. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know how to breathe correctly, but it's something that we consume more than anything.
Yes.
Water's probably second, right? And we're 65% water on average.
Yep.
And so if we're not providing our body with something that is so vital to its own health and well-being, that's going to impact things like flushing out old fluid, our lymphatic system, even our quality of movement, our joint health as well, because the fluidity or the amount of fluid within our body impacts the viscosity of like our joint fluid, for instance.
Yes.
So more water will improve our movement and also impact our ability to have impact without injury as well.
Yes. And on that note, sorry to cut you off, is the more you can move and the more better you move, the better you can train, and the more you can train, which means burning more calories, which means more effective and more fun workouts as well.
Yeah. And that's where my argument would be about quality of food. Obviously, quantity really matters. Like, I think the energy in, energy out is a very, very good baseline that we need to focus on. But then when we start looking at the next percentages of success within our own movement, our own health, and our own well-being, that's when you need to start looking at quality. Because if our quality is poor and we feel like crap, then what's the likelihood of us getting up in the morning and training? Or following our habits because we feel like shit and then we feel like grabbing for a coffee instead of actually hydrating our body.
Definitely.
But the first one we focus on is hydration. And like you mentioned, we want to get scores on the board, runs on the board, whatever it is on the board, because it gives us confidence. Like confidence is built through having positive feedback. Like we need to have a result to gain confidence. It's hard to move into something and be like, I'm just confident about this, but you're lying to yourself because you've never actually been given any feedback about your success for you to be confident. So it's gaining confidence and also practicing discipline. And drinking water is a super easy one for that.
It is,
Easy rule of thumb is about 4 liters of water. If you're smaller female, then you might want to drop it down a bit. If you're a larger male that's more active, even more fluid. But normally a gallon a day, 4.5 liters is where the baseline is at for most people.
And that's a lot of water for the record. That's a lot of water, but strive for it. And if your pee ain't translucent, then you're not drinking enough. So
or you're drinking too many electrolytes or vitamins that just flush you, like vitamin C and stuff.
And
but
also,
I don't think a lot of people probably do that anyway.
They probably don't. So just stay hydrated and also remember to drink. 4.5 liters should have you pretty well covered. As you can hear, Nav's taking a big gulp of water in the background.
And consistently. Not just try and like drink a whole liter.
Don't go sculling.
Because then it will flush that out and your body won't be able to store it. It's just like if you're watering the garden, you don't want to. You want to do small bursts consistently, then
trickle it.
Then overly water and drown it, and then it tries to hold on to all the water too quickly, and it's a mess. It's the same thing with the physical body. With the human body.
It's such a metaphor for life. Like it's no different to like cramming information in. And we just talked about cramming before a uni exam or something. Like that's like you just sculling like 4 liters of water and be like, okay, I'm done. But your body just can't process that much water that quickly. So you need to spread it out across the day. As you spread your nutrition out across the day, as you spread your knowledge out across your learning journey, and et cetera, et cetera. So really good. So that's the first one, is hydration. Number 2, I've got many people not eating enough calories, their body isn't able to thrive. I think we've covered that as well.
You did.
In the discussion of no, that is the second thing. I just decided to
it literally says the second thing.
I'm having a day, aren't I, team? All right. Sorry guys, I was doing great, and all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm too excited to get into the rest of it. That's what I'm too excited for. So the second thing in this is monitoring the calorie intake. So this is what we get. The second thing that we get our 30-day challenge members to do, and also just like when we're working with our clients as well, start monitoring the calorie intake. The good thing about our SMA app, our exclusive SMA app, that we are able to set the calorie target for you. So if you have used MyFitnessPal, it's the same as MyFitnessPal, the function inside our app. We find that many people are not actually eating enough calories, so their body is actually not able to thrive. Very common in weight loss clients as well, mostly common in weight loss clients, I would say. And basically, as we mentioned before, the body needs calories simply to function. And when someone's eating a low amount of food, then their body has to rely on being stressed, or commonly known as drinking fuck tons of caffeine to stay energized, right? And the truth is that fat loss and muscle gain just never occur when the body is undernourished. So getting people to monitor their calorie intake is a great and really important, or it's an integral thing that people need to do, because you just need awareness. You need awareness, and if you come to one of us as a coach, if we don't have that information, we can't give you we can give you advice, tell you to track your fucking calories, but we need to be able to give you good feedback. We need to be able to give you feedback and be like, well, are you eating enough? Are you not eating? Are you eating too much? Or are you eating lots of low quality foods as well? And without that information, you just can't make decisions. So, Nav, can you tell me what is the actual goal of monitoring, apart from abusing your clients?
Abusing them.
Abusing.
A thing that really comes to mind, which you have written here as well, is creating awareness around food, but not avoidance, which I assume you mean try not to lie to ourselves and pretending that we are eating.
Exactly
which is very common. Yeah. The amount of times that I've had clients start tracking their food, and they have to have the honest conversation with me and say, you know what, I was lying to myself. I was lying to you. It might not have been intentional, but it's a subconscious pattern of trying to protect themselves. And there might be emotional eating. Yeah. And we all have addictions, right? Like it plays on dopamine. There's so many emotions that might be occurring. Might be emotionally eating because we're stressed at work, or self-sabotaging ourselves because we don't want to look a certain way because you're insecure about being seen. There's so many emotional aspects to it. But I think the most powerful thing about tracking your calories is the awareness of what are you eating, and then if you coincide that with how do you feel from what you're eating, that's when you can start to understand what foods your body thrive on as well, because we're all different, we're all unique. And there's so many different inflammatory foods that might impact other people where it might not impact you. So having that awareness could really help you thrive within your life, because then you understand the amount of calories you need to eat for the result that you want. So now you're succeeding. Hell yeah, you look great, you're feeling great. And then on top of that, you could eliminate all the foods that make you feel like shit. You know, you could eliminate all the foods that you might not thrive on dairy. And as much as you love cheese and you love ice cream, it might not be the right choice for you. You might not have that awareness without tracking. And that's what comes to mind first. I love cheese. I love some good cheese.
Good. I barely have it, but it doesn't mean I don't love it. Cheese is a fucking vibe. The other thing I want to just mention is like, I know I found this because I've gone back to tracking my calories as well. Now that I've finished racing, I need to put a lot more effort into my nutrition to put the weight back on that I intentionally lost during racing. But I have found that now that I'm tracking, it's easier to track when my food's more consistent. And so as an overall habit, it's easy to stick to good nutrition, and it makes the tracking easier, and so they complement each other. And that's the experience I've had with myself that I then get my clients to do. They share the same experiences. They have resistance to creating awareness around their food because they don't want to see what's doing. They think it's like an extra task that they have to do, and and they feel like it's like an overwhelming thing to pick up. But what we then discover is that actually it's less overwhelming because we have more awareness, we have more control, and there's less variables to worry about. So that's a really good thing that I really wanted to add to. And
get into that with what comes to mind for me is when a lot of my life improved was from this excitement of curiosity, like just knowing the truth. Like I really just want to know as much of the truth as I can so that I could truthfully live my life. And so that's on a deeper level. That's like a philosophical,
that scares the fuck out of a lot of people too.
And it does to me as well. Like it's terrifying. It's terrifying to look at the truth. You know, like you can't handle the truth, and that's the fucking truth. You know, like it's hard to really like look at ourselves and be like, oh, well, maybe I'm responsible. Where 99% of the time we are responsible for where we are and what we're experiencing. And what helped me move through that responsibility was just finding curiosity for it. It's like, you know what, I've got to go through this life anyway. Do you want to live in delusion, or do I want to find as much truth and just enjoy it? Like, have fun with it. You track your food. Your food might be at 2,000 calories a day. Do you want to gain a little bit weight? Bump it up a little bit. Have fun with it. Don't take it too serious.
That's a really good point. I like that. What about some means of tracking? What's a way that someone can track?
Oh, besides the best way ever.
The best SMA app in the whole entire universe.
Same as MyFitnessPal without the annoying ads or paywall, right?
Yeah. You know, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired of these ads at the paywall? I actually went to use MyFitnessPal recent when I started setting myself back up, and I was like, what the fuck?
Every time you open it now, there's an ad.
I was getting really frustrated because my client was using it. He was using the SMA app and then wanted to use MyFitnessPal. And I was like, yeah, cool, you could do that. And then he was sending me all the screenshots, and I was like, man, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I downloaded the free trial because he was trying to use it as well. And so his free trial is about to expire, and he's going to come back to using the SMA app because he's discovered it's exactly the same.
Yeah, we use the same database, right? So it connects to MyFitnessPal. So you have the exact same database. So for those of you that don't know, MyFitnessPal is pretty much the leading, I wish I'd say by far the leading
I think it might be,
nutrition journal app out there.
Yes.
And our SMA app connects with that. So you get the same database of food, but the method of tracking is different on SMA app. And it's better.
It's better, yeah.
And if you use the SMA app, you have everything in it. You got the programs, you have your habits for
there's videos of us in there.
You could watch and listen to more of us.
Yeah.
If this podcast isn't enough for you.
Oh my God.
And then another way is just the old school food journal diary.
Yes.
You create an Excel sheet, or you can just use an actual handheld physical diary, write out what you're eating. Yeah. And then start to add in the portion controlling if you want with that as well.
Yeah, very good. So we have covered that we are having to monitor. That's the second thing we do is we're getting people to monitor their food, and they're going to do that by actually tracking the amount of food. So if somebody is actually like setting up like their total calorie intake, and especially in these apps, they need to kind of set a target of what they want to be hitting every single day as well. What's a recommendation or a good like guideline, Nav, that people can follow for picking the amount of calories they should be eating?
Yeah. Well, lucky we have that in our nutrition system.
Yeah, luckily. Phew, I'm glad it's in there, because if I asked that question, it wasn't, we'd be stuck.
We'd be screwed. Yeah, screwed. It'll be your body weight times 24, and then depending on your activity, it'll be 1.5 times that. So a general baseline, keep it easy. For males, they're looking anywhere from 2,000 to 2,800 calories a day. If you're on the smaller end with a more sedentary lifestyle with less activity in the gym as well, eat close to 2,000.
Yeah. Sedentary means that you don't do much physical activity, like less active.
Yeah. Don't do a whole lot.
Yeah, you're a sitter. You're a sitter. Yeah.
Which we can be at times. No judgment. It's just
like
the truth.
Time too.
Yeah. Just don't want to be delusional. The truth might hurt.
Yeah.
If you're on the larger side, more activity with more muscle gain goals, then you want to be towards the more 2,800 calories. For females, you're looking at anywhere from 1,500 to 2,200 calories. Being more sedentary side, smaller, less activity, lowercase. 1,500 if you're more active or larger, about 2,200 calories.
Yeah.
What's really important is to recognize that you need to start somewhere.
Yes.
And then just start there. I would also recommend starting close to what you're already eating. So if you're someone that's super binge on food, then probably eat on the higher end, closest to that. If you're someone that doesn't eat a whole lot, then eat closest to that edge as well. Like we mentioned at the start of this, we don't want to go from eating 800 calories a day to 2,200 as a female.
Yes, over double your food intake.
Crazy amounts. First, you're going to have a lot of emotional trauma from that, probably.
Definitely,
and we've experienced that with
people.
You feel
fucking lethargic eating 2.5 times the amount of food you eat.
Yeah.
A good thing for people to figure out as well, if you are setting up on MyFitnessPal, the SMA app, and you don't know what amount of food you should be targeting, just track the amount of food you already eat and eat similar to what you have been eating for the previous week, and then that will give you an understanding of how many calories you actually are putting inside your body. And with these apps, it'll give you the breakdown of how much of that is actually protein, how much of that is actually fat, how much of that is actually carbohydrates as well. And if you didn't know that MyFitnessPal and the SMA app, they use a barcode scanner, so you can literally just, if your food comes in a packet, you can just scan the barcode and it automatically recognizes. And there is a new update coming, and it might even be out, I think, but it's close to. But it's starting to auto recognize food just by taking
the AI. The AI's in there.
It's coming. Wow. It's coming. Wow. Yeah. So you can just start taking photos of food and be like, "That's chicken." And you'd be like, "Well, it is. It is. It's chicken. It actually is chicken." So that's also exciting, though.
I think that's great. We're talking about using AI in the future that would figure out people's calories for them and create a recipe for them, which is cool future.
AI is actually we won't get deep into AI as exciting as it is, because a lot of people are scared about it, and so we should form better opinions over time about it. But AI is going to be really good for nutrition because nutrition is just, some people just have a lot of resistance against it. And it's like, people do need a lot of help with their nutrition as well. And sometimes it's just not cost effective, which is why they end up on fucking Light and Easy and Weight Watchers, where it's just, they just get given these generic things. But when you have AI in play, it really gives someone something outrageously personalized. Yep. And so that's exciting because we really, it's a priority that we change the standard of health around the world as a global thing, and AI can really help achieve that. So that's exciting. Yeah. So we have just discussed kind of how many calories people should be aiming to consume. Nav, do you want to share with me like roughly what you are personally aiming for at the moment and why?
Oh, my current
what's
caloric
yours?
intake?
What's your current caloric
Yeah, so I sit at about 2,750, 2,800 a day. Mine is sporadic, as in I would have some days that are on the lower edge. I like eating less on the days that I'm exercising less. I just feel better that way. On the days that I'm eating more or leading into a day, I'm going to eat more. I might even eat more the night before. But overall, I eat about 2,800 calories a day. The way I look at my macronutrient, are we going to dive into macros, or are we just doing?
You might as well, yeah.
Might as well, yeah, cool. The guide rule that I follow, the guideline that I follow for protein is 2 times your body weight. So I'm normally having, or 2.2. I weigh about 75 kilos now, so about 160 grams of protein a day. That covers it for me. Then I'm going for about 40% of my calories in fat. So I'm on the higher end, but I find that works really well. And then the rest is carbs.
Cool. Very, very good. See, Nav's good at his numbers. He knows his numbers. Can you ask me the same question, please?
I was just about to do that. What about yourself, Josh?
Oh, thanks, Nav.
Do you want to share that with us?
I would love to share. Actually, I'd love to talk about myself. So I am actually almost very similar, but I'm actually trying to clear 3,000 at the moment. I was obviously not eating enough during my racing, but just like the amount of calories I'm burning, like when I actually, on the race day, I burnt 12,000 calories just at the race that I did. So it's hard to get that many calories in. So at the moment, I've actually set my app as 3,000, and I'm trying to basically get as close to that as I can every day. And so I'm actually averaging about 2,800 to 2,900 calories, but I will gloriously happily go over it at any point if I can, because I'm actually deliberately trying to increase my weight. And so when I am in a racing season, I kind of let myself go down to about 150 to 160 grams of protein, because in contrast to the amount of training that I'm doing, the amount of running, training for ultramarathon, that allows me to drop muscle, because dropping muscle, not all of it, but a little bit of muscle does help in the racing environment, so that you are lighter and don't need as many calories to fuel the body. And then I actually increase my carbohydrates a lot. So now that I'm back into a bit more weight training, I'm trying to recover, especially trying to repair this Achilles that I tore, probably from not eating enough protein and doing enough strength training before the race. I'm back up to aiming, I'm trying to crack 200 grams of protein a day, which I'm not hitting because I'm not consistent with my protein shakes, but I've actually set it to about 220 as well, because I find when I'm in a muscle building zone, I like to be usually sitting on like 180 to 200. When I'm just sitting, I like to be on 180 grams of protein, and when I'm racing, 160 grams of protein. And for fats and carbs, I actually prefer to eat more fats. I feel better off a higher fat diet than a higher carb. So I'll usually personally like to cap my carbs around 250 grams a day, which is a bit lower than what people normally are used to. But then when I'm racing and training, then I bump that up to like the 350, 400 grams, and then balance my fats there as well. So that's the general gist of what I consume. Now, to go back to helping some people visualize what a meal plan might look like. So we've mentioned that 1,500 calories is kind of the lowest we really recommend people get to. And so, for example, in our 30-day challenge, literally it was actually every female that we had in the previous challenge, they were all actually under eating at the time. They were all eating like the 1,000 calories, 900 calories, 1,200. So I put everybody on 1,500s, and I believe everyone that was consistent with it got more positive results from the tracking.
Yeah, every single person got.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
How dare they? How does every one of our 30-day challenge people get a result?
Dare they?
Oh, look at that timing.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna pause. Camera dropped out. Let's go this one, and then. Oh, that's a nice little. All right. Camera change. Boom, boom, boom. We are back. So sorry, the actual one of the main camera just dropped out, so we reset that. So 1,500 calories. This is a simple example of what 1,500 calories would look like. Get ready. Breakfast, meal 1, peanut butter on toast. That's 2 slices of toast, preferably gluten-free or sourdough, 1 banana, and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. That's brekkie. Most of you on 1,500 calories like, I skip breakfast. Oh my God, I have a coffee. So that's what your meal looks like. Lunchtime, you would have 100 grams of chicken breast, which is about a solid palm's worth, 1 cup of rice, and 1 cup of green veggies with a bit of seasoning. That's barbecue chicken and rice. Meal 4 is a snack, so 1 serve of protein powder in a protein shake, and then 10 grams of almonds. And then a beef stir fry for dinner, 150 grams of beef mince, 1 cup of rice, and 100 grams of green veggies. That's 1,500 calories, all right? If we go down or further up the scale, and let's have a look at what does 2,800 calories look like. This is a meal plan that excites me. I look at it, I'm like, damn, I want to smash this. It would be, for example, meal 1, breakfast, bacon and eggs, 2 slices of toast, 3 large eggs, 100 grams of bacon, 1 cup of spinach. There's also like fuck all calories in spinach, but get the greens in there, and 1 tomato. That's a nice big classic big brekkie. Then you would have a smoothie for like your smoko, your morning tea, your snack. In your smoothie, you'd have a 1 cup of berries, half a banana, 1 scoop of protein, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of honey, and about half a litre of coconut milk or nut milk of your choice, dairy-free, obviously. Lunch, again, barbecue chicken and rice, but this time you're having double what the previous person had with 200 grams of chicken breast, a whole cup of rice, and a cup of green veggies. Then you're going to have another protein shake with nuts, which is 20 grams of almonds this time. And then your dinner is, again, beef stir fry, but 200 grams of beef mince, 1 cup of rice, and 100 grams of green veggies. So that's a bit of a contrast, just to give you an idea of what that actually might look like in terms of the amount of food that you're eating. And so if you listen to the 1,500 calorie meal plan, you're like, I don't eat anywhere near that. You should start with something of what I've just mentioned. That is a great place to start and really monitor your weight and see what happens, and especially your energy levels. So moving on, the last main thing for this phase 2, is it phase 2 that we're on? Yeah. The last thing of phase 2, Nav, is hitting the protein target. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So calories are the most important, but then protein, easy follow through. Protein is important for protein synthesis, so the growth of muscle and recovery of muscle. And if we're training, we want to gain, well, even if we're not training, we want to make sure that we have a good balance between body skeletal muscle and body fat. And so they're eating protein. And it's easy to track, and it tends to be clean if we're getting good protein in. So it's a great macronutrient to start off with. It's actually our favorite macronutrients, which is why we get people to prioritize it, because it's so effective. So common examples of protein, Nav? So animal meat, eggs, fish, protein shakes, so you get whey protein. If you're vegan, then a plant protein or like a vegan protein will be very good. And then there's also vegan, vegetarian options, which are meat replacements, and then also beans, tofu, legumes, lentils, stuff like that. It is, to be completely transparent with the listeners, if you're vegetarian or vegan, it's much harder to get protein in. It is very harder, and you also have to be a lot more vigilant because of the fillers and additives that come in some of the brands. They're also quite highly processed, which is it's just the landscape of what food's available to us at the moment. But that's all. We'll touch on that. What protein do you tend to consume, Nav? All the meat. I love lots of meat. So meat, biltong jerky if I want to get more meat in. A real simple product snack that people could have. So if I have clients that might not want to have a protein shake, so another one's protein shake, about 2 scoops a day, because it's just easy to get about 50 grams of protein a day. It is, super easy. So protein shakes for most people are very, very important. And then if I have clients that don't feel like protein powder, or I'm also over protein powder, just buy about 100 grams of biltong. And it's about 50 grams of protein, 45 grams of protein, which is a good amount. And it tastes good as well. So. I love biltong. They're my protein sources, like specifically, but you also get trace in all the food you eat anyway. But yes, definitely. What about yourself? Also a big biltong fan, as you know. After this, I'm actually going to go buy a slab of meat and make some jerky to last us the month, which I'm excited about. But I also generally have all the just the common animal meats, which is I usually eat chicken every day. I usually eat beef every day as well. So I generally have a beef or a lamb or a fish for dinner, and then pretty much religiously my lunch is a chicken variation
of any sort.
Yeah.
And if I'm good with my schedule, then it's bacon and eggs is like my favorite. I'm one of those like breakfast or dinner kind of guys. I'll smash bacon and eggs for breakfast, and then I'll have it for dinner as well. Love that.
Nice.
And then also I'm a big smoothie drinker as well, just because it helps me keep my calories up. So I have my big boy smoothie recipe, which is a double scoop protein shake with like honey, peanut butter, coconut oil, MCT oil, mango, just to keep the calories up. So that's a big fan of what I'm having. As a general guideline, Nav, how much protein should we be consuming if we are wanting to lift and manage our calories?
Yeah, so we have 30 to 40% of your daily calories, but I also like to go off of 2 times your body weight. It's anywhere from 1.5 to 2.2 times your body weight.
Yep.
But an easy rule is 2 times your body weight in kilograms in protein. That's a real easy rule of thumb.
Yep.
For males, that normally looks like 4 palms of meat of protein, ideally 5 to 7 times a day. For females, 3 palms worth of protein, meat, or protein sources per day, ideally 4 to 6 times a day.
Yeah, 4 to 6 palms. Ideally 4 to 6 palms.
I see what we're looking at.
Yeah.
At least 4 for males, 5 to 7 females, at least 3, 4 to 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The reason I wrote it like that is because ideally it's like 5 to 7 palms. That will be getting you to that 2 times your body weight.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the people that are likely to be listening to this that are under eating, the thought of actually getting even 4 palms of protein is quite hectic for them. So I usually, with a lot of clients that are intimidated by that, I'm like, let's just start with like 4 palms. Let's start with 3 palms, and let's build you from there. And
that's also including stuff like protein powder as well. So that we're not just talking about eating that amount of meat.
Oh, correct.
Also through things like eggs, protein powder, other sources of protein.
Exactly right. Like literally a scoop of protein powder is considered a palm of protein. So if you had 2 protein shakes a day, that's your 2 palms. And then you can easily get 5 to 7 palms if you're a male. You can easily get 4 to 6 if you're a female. But again, be patient with yourself. So let's roll into phase 3. So now you've rolled through phase 2, where you've actually started tracking your food. You should be really well hydrated now, and you're starting to get a good amount of consistency of food intake that you are aware of, and you can see that you're being consistent because you're tracking, and you can see your protein is good. You will start to get results. We have, maybe at the end of this podcast, we'll just reference some of the clients, some of their wins that they've had from going through this, but for the sake of time, we're going to roll straight into phase 3, building good habits and a healthy relationship with food. So the first 5, there's 15 here, but the first 5 we've already covered, because the first one is staying hydrated, which is part of the 30-day challenge habits. Be aware, which is tracking things, prioritizing protein, eating for consistency, and eating above your BMR. So that's 5. Number 4 is eat for consistency. Eat above your BMR is number 5. I wanted to touch base on eating above your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is what people would burn if they just did nothing throughout the day, just that base amount of food. Most people's BMR is never any less than 1,800 calories. It's usually never, like small people that are more sedentary, it does get down to the 1,500 mark, but I very rarely, and this is all males, and I usually train males from 18 all the way up to, my oldest clients probably like close to 60. When I measure them on the scales, BMR is very rarely even below 2,000, or it's like 1,900 something. Like most of my male clients, I am putting them somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500 calories because their BMR is around the 2,000 mark. So that's just something I wanted to drop in. You have to be eating above your BMR because you are eating for nourishment. So number six is eating in conjunction with exercise. So you've got your first 5 down pat. You want to make sure that you are eating in conjunction with exercise. It's important that people understand that, because people who are trying to lose weight but we're encouraging them to eat more, it's very hard to psychologically digest that concept. And so we say, remember, you're also exercising and you need the energy and you need the ability to be able to thrive during your sessions. You don't want to drag yourself through these sessions with a coffee. You want to be able to rock up to these sessions feeling full, feeling nourished, and feeling hungry to lift. Right? And then that way you can get a quality session out. You're more likely to build more muscle, improve your posture, feel better, get better the dopamine hit, and have an all-round better time with this experience as well. So eating in conjunction with exercise is really good. What's the next one, number 7, Nav?
Eat for nourishment, which actually made me think about, because you said eat in conjunction with exercise. I also think eating in conjunction with life, right? So, for instance, I think even who was it, Jocko Willink or Andrew Huberman, they were talking about this as well. They wouldn't eat too much leading into like a podcast because that's going to impact their focus and their drive and their energy, because they're going to be more lethargic. They have to go into rest and digest. So eating with nourishment, I would say eating for nourishment, like your everyday life, how you feel, and not eating for distraction, punishment, indulgence. You wrote distraction twice. Yeah, boredom and stimulation. You're distracted.
I was distracted writing it.
The awkwardness.
Yeah.
Sorry. And choose foods that make you feel healthy, whole foods, natural foods.
Yes.
Be mindful of your own consumerism, your own behaviors, your own patterns of eating food, and the negative impacts of that.
Yeah, definitely. Very good. Very good. Number 8 is the 80-20 rule. Simply put, 80% good shit, 20% bad shit. So it's about being okay with the occasional poor choice, but as long as that is outweighed. If you hit an 80% consistency with your nutrition, be like, I've like nailed 80% of my protein, I've nailed 80% of my my habits for the week, I've nailed 80% of my overall calorie target. Definitely, we want you to strive for greatness. It's a really important thing to do, but there's times where it just doesn't happen. And if you sit down punishing yourself, you can even go back to what we mentioned before. People then do binge out of punishment, or they'll binge out of self-sabotage, or they'll just punish themselves in whatever way. And so if you do feel like you really need to fit the Snickers in, or the ice cream, or whatever it is that's your vice that you still love to have, or even if it's just like enjoying alcohol with friends and stuff, you can actually fit that into your lifestyle if it's outweighed by the consistent good that you've been doing. And so this is about creating balance, or counterbalance, as we talk about as well. And so keeping a healthy relationship with food is also allowing yourself to find something that works within your lifestyle, and you don't have to feel like a I don't know what the word is, but like I must do this. Like, you don't have to be so rigid and stressed about it. Give yourself a bit of leeway. Yeah. So strive for progress, not perfection. Nav, what is number 9?
Be omnivorous.
Yes.
So appreciate all food groups and macros. So you wrote protein, carbs, and fats. So having a good, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Having a good split of all macronutrients.
Yes.
But also eating all sources of nutrition to us. So that could be meat. It could be veggies, fruit, of the like. So nuts as well. Yeah. But also being mindful of how that impacts your body.
Yes.
You know, like that's why I'm being a little bit, because some people might have negative impacts like cruciferous, like broccoli.
Yeah.
Some people might really not feel good with broccoli, but But a good rule of thumb is get all of your macronutrients in. Don't eliminate any of them. Don't go to the extreme of keto.
Don't eliminate anything yet.
Yeah. There might be impacts, like positive moments for that. But in most cases, for most people, have a good spread of all macronutrients and food as well.
Yes, exactly right. So again, we do encourage people to experiment and try new things. As I mentioned previously, I personally prefer higher fat diets than higher carbohydrate diet. And I know that because I tried it. And I know for myself, and I know how I feel. And we eliminate a lot of inflammatory foods, which is one of the things later on, but that's through testing and measuring within ourselves as well. And so finding what works for you is also really, really important on that. So as I just mentioned, number 10 is minimizing inflammation. So just consider minimizing inflammation is foods that cause stress onto the body. And as in our stress pillar, our stress episode, we talk about external stresses, but food is also an internal stressor, and so there's a lot of things that people are actually putting into their bodies that doesn't agree with us. And as Homo sapiens, there's a very general rule of thumb to follow, and that is what I call Eliza's Big Five. So Eliza is a friend of ours who is a nutritionist and maybe 50% of a naturopath, because that she did most of the study and then didn't do it because that's not what she wanted to do. But very knowledgeable, and she's actually featured inside this manual, and she drops in her information about her Big Five. And so her Big Five are the big 5 things that trigger large amounts of inflammations and affect the body in a negative way that therefore negatively affects our results or the goals that we're striving for. So again, this information is clearly broken down inside the document or the book, but they are, number 1, wheat and added gluten. Number 2 is conventional dairy. Number 3 is industrial seed oils. Number 4 is refined and added sugars. And number 5, number 5, did I do that right? Did I say number 4?
This is number, yeah.
And then number 5 is artificial additives. So those things, wheat and gluten, dairy, industrial seed oils, refined and added sugars, artificial additives, they are all things that ELISA, and we recommend eliminating out of the diet because they just do not support your well-being. And these are the things that need to be focused on when we're prioritizing quality of food going in. Number 11, Nav.
Natural over processed food.
Spot on.
Yeah. So anything that comes from the earth, ideally.
Yeah.
Less packaged. Pretty much if anything comes in a package, try and stay away from it, or have that and you're at 20%. 80% whole foods from the earth, fruit, veggies, organic, as organic as possible. If you can afford that and you can source good organic food, go for it. But meat, seeds, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And protein bars. That's my thing. I love. That's the main packet things that I'll buy is protein bars. They're the things that I'm probably the most guilty of. But I'm quite happy that as with that as a packaged snack.
That's your 20%.
That's my 20%. Yeah. The next one's eliminate sugary drinks, and I feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but I'm actually surprised by how common this actually still is, and this is why it's in the list. Is one of the fastest ways to get calories in is through liquids, and I personally choose to do that through smoothies. I give a lot of my clients that are trying to build muscle my big boy smoothie recipe because that helps them keep their calorie and protein intake high. But outside of that, if you're drinking lots of fruit juices, a lot of just soft drinks in general as well, so much sugar can be digested in a literal matter of minutes, even seconds if you just scale something back. And that also includes lots of alcohols as well. Alcoholic drinks are covered or I don't know, they're just full of sugar. Alcoholic drinks are full of sugar that just don't need to be in the system as well. So eliminating sugary drinks is a really, really big one. Number 13, Nav?
Stress. Stress sucks. So this is working with our stress, I'm assuming, being aware of our stress and making sure we're keeping our stress at a solid baseline. It's knowing when to reduce our stress and when to relax and when to digest and when to put on stress. So that might be an important meeting or something important with our career. A crucial conversation. Exercising is probably one of the predominant stresses. A cold shower. And so it's like being mindful of the intentional stress towards a resourceful result. Versus the negative stress, which is only going to create negative consequences.
Definitely. So it's really about managing stress, and a lot of people that do, again, the stress leans into the 80-20 rule, is people get stressed out trying to adhere to that, and then that negatively impacts their mental health, and then they crave the things that they shouldn't be having even more, and it takes them more closer to a binge. The other thing about stress is it drops your appetite. When people are living in a really stressed state as well, the goal is to nourish your body, and when you're constantly stressed or allowing yourself to be stressed by commonly just putting others before you. That's a big one as well, especially in the family scene as well. Mothers are common to this. They just barely eat throughout the day. All my recent mothers that I've been working with, they've all guilty of the same thing. It's like put all the kids first, put the family first, and they don't eat till the end of the day. And that's including young mums. A friend of mine that I've started training who is actually my age, and she's the same thing. She's got 3 kids now, and she still snacks on the kids' snacks as well. So it happens at all ages as well. The next one is Nav.
Controlling your alcohol.
Controlling the alcohol. Alcohol is a secret calorie as well. So how many calories is 1 gram of alcohol?
1 gram of alcohol, 7.
Was it 1 mil?
I'm not too sure. I know a shot of alcohol is 70 calories. I think that's...
it's definitely 7. 7 is the number.
So 7. Okay, so it must be 10 grams of carbs per shot then. I only go off shots, to be honest.
Right. Well, it's definitely, I think it's 1 gram. I'm assuming it's 1 gram because it's the same as like the 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of...
Makes sense. So 7 calories to a gram.
To a gram. 7 calories is a gram of alcohol. So that's what you got to be aware of.
Just don't drink it, guys.
Just don't drink.
Like, in all fairness, I
just
don't
do
think
drugs,
it's that
guys.
worth it. Yeah.
There's no calories in drugs. It's so much easier. So much easier. Don't do drugs. Yeah. So the other thing is it really negatively affects the performance of your metabolism, and it does encourage more fat storage as it negatively affects your hormone balance as well. Number 15, the very last one.
The controlling caffeine intake.
Oh,
so this kind of like links in with your stress as
well.
Not
sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Especially if you're drinking so much of it. It impacts our hydration within our body. It impacts our stress, whether we're using... Because now we're using an exogenous, something outside of ourselves to impact our chemistry within our body to use for energy. What about our own natural energy? Like now we're not playing around with our own nervous system. We're not creating or stimulating positive stresses outside of caffeine. We're using something outside of ourselves.
Yeah. So do not have, just manage it. It. What are some good guidelines for someone who loves coffee, like me, who's about to drink my first coffee this year on Monday?
Yeah. So the best guidelines are wait at least 90 minutes from rising. So you want to wait about 90 minutes, get some hydrate prior to caffeine is very important. And then don't have any caffeine past midday. I think that's pretty much a good rule of thumb. You could have anywhere up to about 300 milligrams scientifically, they say, but I would be mindful of how it impacts you as an individual.
Yeah, even me hearing 300 milligrams, that means I get 300 milligrams a day?
That's like 4 shots, right? Which a lot of people would have.
Probably 2 shots, I think.
I think each shot's about 80.
Depends how big the shot is.
Yeah. I think the standard of a barista is like 80 milligrams of caffeine.
I think a shot is, and a standard long black is 150.
Normally it's 3 I think it's like 3 to 4 shots depending on the size. I think a regular is about 2 to 3 shots. You might be right, 150 to... Depends on the barista and how much they're giving you.
It depends on the barista, how much you flatter your eyelids.
Well, I'm dating one. So.
You're dating one, so you should probably know, actually.
Yeah.
There we go. So just manage your caffeine intake. Keep it to, let's say like 1 to 2 shots per day, maybe 3 shots, depending who's serving you. We always recommend like black coffee and espressos because they're just nice and clean as well. So that is pretty much it. We're about to roll into the tail end of the episode now. I wanted to just recap on those 15 things that we've just covered. So number 1, stay hydrated. Number 2, be aware, which is tracking. Number 3, prioritize protein. Number 4, eat for consistency. Number 5, eat above your BMR. Number 6, eat in conjunction with exercise. Number 7, eat for nourishment. Number 8, 80-20 rule. Number 9, be omnivorous and appreciate all the food groups and macros. Number 10, minimize inflammation, which is Eliza's big 5, which is wheat and added gluten, conventional dairy, industrial seed oils, refined and added sugars, artificial additives. Number 11, favor natural over processed foods. Number 12, eliminate sugary drinks. Number 13, stress sucks, not the fat, but it sucks the life out of you. Number 14, control your alcohol. Number 15, control your caffeine intake. So those are the main ones to focus on. Again, for the advanced and the people that want to keep progressing, jump into the book and you can start stepping into phase 4 where you really get to get into the meal prep manual and setting yourself up for success inside the kitchen. And there's information on even what are some good tools, and appliances to own inside the kitchen. So that's really exciting. But everything we've covered is more than enough to get somebody absolutely kick-started and some fantastic results. Some random results that I just wanted to touch base on that I wanted to share is Casey. She lost 7 kilos. She lost 1 kilo a week, and all she did was just prioritize protein and eat more calories. I had a personal training client that I was working with for 12 months, and he's just started hitting PBs, and we just could not break his plateau, but we finally got him tracking consistently. And turns out that there was Uber Eats that was happening every week that we didn't know about. So who would have known? That was a big one as well. We had another client who will remain anonymous, who actually had previously become super lean. They worked with a bodybuilder, and they did a very effective weight loss but rapid routine, and they ended up doing a bodybuilding shoot, like a bikini shoot, and she was like fit as, put the weight back on, and then re-entered the gym and worked with us, and was so fixated on following the same strategy and didn't follow any of the guidelines, and that when she returned, she did only lose about 1 kilo or 2, but she couldn't understand why she didn't lose the weight the second time around, and it's because it was so aggressive on her body, and the damage from the previous dieting regime caused a lot of damage that it didn't work the second time round, and she is actually no longer with the gym either, actually. So I think you know who that is.
Yeah.
He's giving me the eyes. He knows who that is. So but with respect to her, we won't mention her name. And also my brother actually lost a bit of weight recently I just convinced him to just cut dairy, and he just cut the dairy out, and which was mostly from coffees as well, and I think he lost 1 kilo and a half within 2 weeks just by cutting milk out of his coffees as well. So that's all I wanted to add into there. Is anyone that you wanted to add in, Nav?
No, I think there's so many people who could think of. Most of the time, my clients, they're looking at losing 0.5 to 1% of body weight a week on average, and they could do that losing upwards of 30 to 50 odd kilos depending on the individual. But
Yeah.
we have multiple of these stories, and they've all used the system that is talked about today.
Yes, yeah. And also, I could just pretend and make up people and just pretend that they got these results.
Yeah, the anonymous person.
Yeah, the anonymous person. Yeah, they're made up. They're not real. So,
yeah.
Do you mystery item? Did you?
I did.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna roll into Nav's mystery item.
Do it. Awesome. Did you?
I need to figure this volume control out.
Wow. Okay. So someone's just
You get someone's something. All right, let's do this one.
We could do that one better.
Hey, mystery item.
And our mystery item is just a protein shaker.
The protein shaker.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I also realized that every single item I brought in has been something that's always on me.
Yeah.
Most cases, anyway. The reason for that is because that's how I want to help people live. It's not just hey, let's lose 10 kilos within 12 weeks and then not think about it. It's like, no, change your lifestyle. That you have to live the lifestyle. And things like a protein shaker is really important because most people are on the road or they're busy with work and they really struggle to get protein in or food in, and they could just do it as simple as chucking in some protein powder.
Yeah.
Or, which I can't bring my NutriBullet, you could make a big protein shake or a big smoothie that would include all sorts of different carbs through fruit and fats, so like MCT or flax seeds or what have you. So peanut butter as well. But the protein shake is super useful to most people.
It is.
It's extremely easy. You take it with you. You could drink it. You don't need to microwave it or anything like that.
Yeah.
All the main excuses people give can be fixed by a simple protein shaker.
Absolutely.
A simple protein shaker.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Was
There we go.
smooth.
Yeah. It took a while to. Anyway.
But yeah, get a protein shaker. Use some
yourself a protein
protein powder and make yourself some shakes. If you're really struggling with food, simple smoothie will fix that for you.
And I'll even add to Nabs because I've got my protein shaker.
Oh, no way.
Get a stainless steel one.
Yeah,
You can hear that stainless steel. I'm all about the stain. It keeps things colder and cooler. So, funnily enough, in similar fashion to Nav,
Josh has brought his NutriBullet.
No, I brought my NutriBullet. I've actually brought. This is a big thing that we're gonna dump on the deck, but here we go. This is actually my birthday present that I just got from my housemate, but it's actually an esky bag. So in the same fashion, I really wanted to illustrate that being proactive, the golden rule is one of the most important things. So I also bought an esky, and it's fucking sick, but it hasn't arrived yet, so I couldn't bring that in. But I have ordered an esky to put in my car so I can bring food with me and sit it in the car, especially in summer, that for after my training sessions, I want to start I do actually bring calories that don't then end up melting. But inside this esky bag, I've got a whole bag of grapes that I've eaten because I love grapes. But I've even got a bag of protein powder in here. I've already got I have a small cup of cereal as well, of gluten-free cereal to get keep my carbs up every day as well. And then I've actually just got there's a jar of dehydrated cactus in there, and there's my water bottle and everything in here as well. But the point of this is that I anticipate what food I want to be putting into my body, and I make sure I bring these with me. And now I get to keep my stuff nice and cool and cold as well. And that's the point, is to be proactive by bringing food with me and preparing things with me. And that way I can make better food choices and hit my targets. And it's easy for me to track because I know what I'm going to be entering into my journal as well. So that is my mystery item. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up to sign off, we want to thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you want to get anything further from this, you can contact us through social media, through Nav's mobile number, which is 04. No, I'm kidding. I was
going to send it.
You're going to send it, yeah.
No, that's a good idea. Not to.
So you can contact us through the gym and through likely the platforms on this podcast as well. Information to contact us and ask us questions, and links to the website, the SMA podcast. It's all in here. My Fitness Pal, that'll all be in the show notes as well. So thank you very much for listening. And Nav, I'll let you sign off this one.
Health and happiness.
Health and happiness.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. See ya, everybody.
Would you if I
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That's the one.
And then round of applause. Oh, you can overlap them. There we go. All right, see ya, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.